I'm going to talk about the finance side of the conference. We are committed as an organising committee that this remains a free conference. There should never be a barrier. Cost should never be a barrier to attending a conference. So we rely entirely on community support. So thank you for that, and sponsorship money. So this year we raised £9,620. So obviously, thank you to all sponsors and all community people who've put money into that. Thank you. We couldn't have done it without you. So what have we spent? So we've spent approximately £5,000, and that is with still some admin costs to go on top of that. So how have we spent that? So the venue here costs £1,525. Tea, coffees and cakes, £950. And the after drinks, £281. Pre-social, £140. Post-social, food and drinks, £500. Max, we've not spent that yet. So you know how much you've got to spend. And hoodies, t-shirts, bags, banners, etc., £1,500. So was it worth it? So let's compare that to what we did last year. So as you can see quite clearly there, we have halved the cost of the venue. We've saved money again on the refreshments. I think we'd all agree that the refreshments have been fantastic. Pre-social drinks again, we're a little bit. We didn't spend as much money on that. So clearly you've not drunk enough beer, is what we're getting from that. And again, post social food and drinks. Again, we've not covered that, but yet we didn't cover that last year, which we are covering this year as a conference. And again, we've gone for hoodies, we've gone for t-shirts, etc. So again, we spent a little bit more money on that, but I think the quality has been very good. So what's left? So we have £4,000 left, or roughly. So the good thing about that, providing everyone, there's no people who haven't hated the venue, which I don't think they have. We can confirm that. I'm getting nods, so I think we're okay. That we can confirm the venue early. We can pay for the venue early, and we can get the date out earlier. But I guess what else can we do with that? We've got money left over from there. So so we're interested to see what you think. So please email us. What do you think we should do? Should we invest more in sort of a Send a Newbie program? Should we make a sort of charity donation of some description? Should we look at travel grants? Should we look at paying paying keynote speakers? More swag, more beer. I think it's always going to be people's preference. But we're keen to hear from you. Really, this is a community conference, and we're keen to see what can we do with the money that we've raised, and how can we continue to make the conference better. And we will also publish the full accounts in due course. Thank you.
Right, hello everybody. So, seeing as people said that in my last talk the story was good, I thought I'd tell another story, a long and illustrious story. So this story starts, I think, in 2007, and it involves this character, which some of you might recognize. If you recognize it, this is the avatar of Josh Adams, if you know Josh Adams, and it was the avatar for the Pearl podcast. And basically the Pearl podcast started in about 2006, I believe it was, and unfortunately in 2010 it suffered from pod fade. It faded away, and we haven't seen it for a while. So we roll fairly rapidly to 2018, 2019, and two people who are in this room, hopefully, had this little conversation, which was, hey, I got this idea for you, Mohammed. So then we roped in someone else who's in this room and said, hey, do you want to record a podcast? And that didn't happen. So we have actually created the Pearl podcast again. We have recorded an episode, which may never see the light of day because of my great editing equipment. But some of you will know, may have already been cornered in it today and have been recorded. I've recorded 3 interviews today, and we're going to try and relaunch it again. It's at pearlcast.net at the moment. And yes, it's HTTP at the moment, not SSL. Before you say anything, James.
Just briefly, Cloudflare, is it used for free?
Exactly. It's open source. The code is right there at github.com/pearlpodcast in case you're interested. Pull requests are very welcome, as are recordings, as are guests, as are hosts. Anybody who wants to be involved, please do. Pull requests are welcome. You never know, you could get your 4 pull requests for Hacktoberfest just by cleaning up the mess that is my HTML and CSS. Thank you very much.
Right, we're off. So last year I gave a talk about us getting ISO 27001 certification. We just got it literally the week before, and so this is about a year of that. I'm going to start with a recap of 27001 and then talk about our first year with it. So 27001 is an international standard of about 34 pages. This is the introduction that says what it's about. It's basically a system, a standard for defining an information security management system, or ISMS. This is kind of like the key definition. It basically is something that preserves the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information. So if you've got a system that processes information, it's about making sure it's secure. And those key words, CIA, come up a lot. And at the core of it is about applying a risk management process. Looking at the standard, there's 2 sections to it. There's requirements, so there's a whole bunch of stuff that you have to do. And then there are controls, there's 114 of them. And depending on what the risks are you've identified, you have to pick certain controls to manage those risks and mitigate against them. At the heart of it is a risk management process, but you have to manage a whole bunch of other things as well about your information assets, having measures to see how well you're doing and is it being effective. Certification, you need to put all these things in place and then you go through a certification process. You do a stage 1 audit, which is basically have you got your shit together, and then you do a stage 2 audit, which is longer, which is, okay, you defined all this stuff, have you actually been doing it and operating this system, and is your security starting to improve? And at the end of it, you get a certificate. I meant to have a slide saying we have a certificate. But so now what? Well, so then you have to run your ISMS. So what is our ISMS? At the heart of it is a humongous Google Sheets spreadsheet with all this information in it about our risks, what the information is we're tracking. The statement of applicability is which of the controls we've selected, and there's a bunch of other stuff. And then there's a bunch of documented policies and processes, basically a whole load of information. So we've kind of defined it, and now we've got to run it. Because we're new, we have to run on kind of a quarterly cycle, which basically means we've got to do a bunch of stuff, and at the end of the quarter we have to report on this, and we kind of repeat and repeat and repeat. And then at the end of that year, you'll typically get audited. You have to define your process of how you're going to run. So this is a matrix of the activities we have to do by quarter and who's got to be involved in them. And all of those have got a process associated. You get certified for 3 years, and at the end of 3 years, you have to go through a full recertification audit. In the middle of that, you have to go through surveillance audits, where basically this is a third party comes in and grills the hell out of me to see have we got this documented and have we got proof that we've been following this process. And the audit process is basically a sampling activity where the person picks various bits of the standard through the 3 years to see, are you following this, what's your proof that you're following it, have you got documented processes, etc. We're newbies, so normally you do 1 surveillance audit a year. We're only in our first year, we're 11 months in, and we've already done 2 surveillance audits. Having got through our second one, we now have gone on to a yearly cycle. But there's more audits. You can never have enough audit. I can't believe I just said that. So as well, you have to do internal audits, where someone who's not the person who's running your system, if you're a big enough company, it'll be an internal person. We were told we should have an external internal auditor, but we kind of did it ourselves. It's a long and very tedious process. So there's a whole bunch of audits going on. What has it been like doing this? Tedious, stressful. The audits of having someone come and basically sit next to me for 1 or 2 days and say, show me this, prove it, show me this, is very stressful. And the preparation for it is stressful, and it's very time consuming. I would guess it's probably taken up 15% or so of my time this year, plus or minus 5%. So it's taken a huge amount of effort. And yet, as we've gone through and going through these audits, we've captured lots of information. So we've collected a lot more risks. We've identified a lot more specific and kind of more fine-grained information assets that we need to track. 3 of our customers have made this a supplier requirement, which is good in terms of not losing to them to competitors. And we are noticing that it's kind of gradually weaving into our DNA. My co-founder, who this really isn't his bag at all, it's not my bag at all, and yet I'm talking about it. We're starting to use the terminology and say, oh, we should be logging this as a risk, etc. So it is hopefully going to become easier. Our auditor keeps telling us, oh, it will eventually become easier. And in year 2, so we've basically identified lots of stuff in the last year. Some of them we've worked on. We need to keep working on those things, optimize what we've put in place. Having created this monstrous thing in Google Docs, just really resisting the temptation to implement a web system to do it. There are auditors that say if we did, she would like to go into business with us, since we've got a good system in place apparently. That's it. Is that maybe even time for a question? No, don't be silly. Thank you.
Glue. Glue is the working title of a photo project I've been shooting since 2015. You might have seen me at various Perl workshops, Perl conferences, lurking around with a camera. And I need your help. So I started this at the Swiss Perl workshop in 2015, so this was at the then Perl 6 hackathon. And I kind of always been fond of this photo. It's one of the first I took. I just like everything that's going on here. And after, 4.5, 5 years, I've got approaching 1,000 photos. I think I've still got a couple of years left to go, but I've started thinking about the final form of this photo project. And the way we traditionally do this is we pick a selection of photos from the long edit. So we get 100 photos, 50 photos, and then we filter that down to a smaller selection. So this is another one again from the Swiss Perl workshop in 2015. And once we have those photos, we kind of figure out a sequence, which is a starting point, and then a journey, and then an end point. So that's Nick in Granada in 2015 again. And often what we do as part of sequencing is we pair images. So we pair those that might complement each other or those that contrast one another. For example, this is from Orlando in, I think, 2016, and it kind of sort of fits with the next image. Can anybody think why? I mean, we've got lots of geometry in the image. We've got a single person, lots of people. We've got kind of a similar perspective there. But I start to think about text because we also want to think about how text is involved in photo projects. And how can I pair text with these images? What could I pair text? What text would I pair with that? Well, the obvious answer is why not pair code with the images? And this is actually a piece of production code I wrote years ago. I've renamed the variables a little bit so it kind of fits better with the image. But it fits because if you read the map, you see it's taking a chaotic array of hashes and then sorting them into another array. So we have this chaos at the bottom that becomes kind of ordered at the top. And to me, it just kind of fits with that image. And this is a little snippet I wrote just before the Swiss Perl workshop when I gave this lightning talk as well. Can anybody think? That's some Raku. Can anybody see what that's doing? Hopefully I've named the variables well enough to kind of make it self-explanatory. Yeah, exactly. Hopscotch. This may not be entirely idiomatic Raku, so forgive me, but if you didn't know coding, you didn't know Raku, you now kind of know what that code is doing. I guess it would be nice to address this question. This was Stephen at, I think, Yapti Granada as well, maybe? So what I've done is I've uploaded this module to CPAN, Acme Glue, and it would be very nice if you could contribute a small snippet of code. It doesn't have to be Perl 5 or Raku, it's just a very small snippet, something you're quite fond of, for whatever reason you're fond of it. Create a pull request and I'll add it to the module and it might end up in the final edit. And you don't need to worry about pairing it with any particular image or vice versa. I don't need to worry about you giving me a particular piece of code, because the way a lot of photo projects work is there's a lot of serendipity involved. You have so many images, and in this case maybe so much code, things just end up pairing with other things. The obvious one here is that DeLorean that has its dashboard powered by Perl. If I could get a little bit of Perl from that, that would go with that one. How do you solve the packing problem for camel-shaped objects? So as I said, there's a couple more years, I think, left to shoot in this project. Possibly more, possibly less. You never really know with these kind of things. And I'm not aware of any other photo project like this, so I think it would be unique, and I think it would be quite cool. So contribute. Thank you.
Hello again. I hope you all had a good time today. This already brings us to almost the end of the 2019 London Perl Workshop. We've seen a lot of things. We've had some listeners. We've had some speakers. I'm just going to leave it here for a moment. You can applaud to speakers. Hang on. Yeah, applaud. More speakers. Applaud more as more speakers. We've had some sponsors, and we're going to go back to the sponsors in a second. Yeah, that's enough applauding. We've had some great conversations, I hope. We've had cake. And please, if you like the cake, do go and thank the man behind the cake counter. I'm sure he will appreciate that. We had a working schedule, I think. If we look at the time, this is actually worked out. I am rather surprised. I think we didn't have a wall, although actually we do, because this building is built on a piece of Roman city wall, which is incorporated into the basement. And incidentally, that basement room is also where we're keeping the beer. So yeah, if you want to see it, we can go downstairs. There's actual Roman city wall downstairs. It's quite cool. There will be a survey. You should have all, if you were signed up, gotten a survey email from Barbie, who unfortunately couldn't make it today because he went to a concert, I think. Theater? Concert? Yeah. Well, but he did get the survey done for us, which is really good. And I'd like to reiterate that the survey is really, really helpful for the speakers and for the attendees. Well, for you to tell us what you liked and what you disliked, and especially for us as organizers, it's really helpful. Considering we've had a new venue, we'd like to get your feedback on that. We would like to No, I think it worked really well, actually, the venue. Yeah, please do fill this in. And that brings us to thankings. First of all, we'd like to thank you as the community for showing up and for donating money. So this year we've raised almost £500 in community donations. Given it's a free conference and there are about 100 people here, that's quite a lot of money. So thank you very much for that. You can applaud yourself. Again, I'd like to thank the speakers, because without you, an event like this wouldn't be possible. So thanks again to the speakers. community earlier, but I'll say it again. Thanks for the people coming and listening and asking questions. And then let's get to the sponsors. So this year, Bookings was a platinum sponsor for us. They didn't actually have a presence, but they did contribute quite significantly, so thanks to Booking. We did have 5 gold sponsors this year: Pyrum, Eligo, Pearl Careers, Civil Library, and cPanel. Thank you. Silver sponsors this year were Adestra, Pearl Services, Olio, and Opus VL. Bronze sponsors were Cogendo, Geek Uni, the Enlightened Pearl Organization, and Control O. Thank you to them. Then there is us, the organizers. I don't want to thank myself, but I think we sort of got this done. I don't know what you think. But yeah, so that's us, Catherine, Rick, Mohammed, Lee, Tom, and me. And also thanks a lot to Tom, who is running around and operating video equipment. Yeah. Now, I think at this point I'm going to take a quick break and we're going to take a picture of a few of us. Yeah, come here. And Mohammed, where's Mohammed? Mohammed, come here in front. We're going to take a selfie. We're going to take a selfie with the audience. Rick went home. He had to unfortunately go home and get a brain. And,
There's 2 babies under 1, so
I need to sort of like.
I'm not sure of the practicality of this, but
I want this picture.
okay.
Hello, audience. Hello, audience. Hey! You're not making noise. Make more noise. Thank you. All right. So in terms of organizing, this is a lot of work. So if anyone wants to get involved or anyone didn't like what we were doing, the projector, you can get involved. You can do a better job than we did. You can help us do a better job. Or you can just support us because you like what we did. Please get in touch if you want to volunteer for next year. And get in touch if you have any other feedback as well. You may now wear your conference garments. Yay! Finally. And if anyone happens to have taken 2 t-shirts, we seem to have misplaced one. And the person who's missing their t-shirt is actually going back abroad. So if you did accidentally take 2 t-shirts, it'd be great if we could get that back. Yeah, so next year, we're pretty sure there is going to be one next year. And we do want to know whether it should be here again. So lots of people are nodding and saying, yes, that's great. So yeah, again, if we can get more feedback on that, apart from, they have already offered us more screens if we come back. So yeah, if you have any other feedback about the venue, they were also very keen to hear about that, so that'd be great. So what's next is going to be drinks next door in the cafeteria. We have a nice selection of soft drinks as well as craft beer from the local craft beer brewery next to my house in Wimbledon, which is going to be fun. And after that, we will go to the pub, which is the Running Horse. It's a little bit of a walk away, but not too far. I'm sure we'll all find it. We will probably provide some guidance. Thank you very much for coming. Please enjoy the rest of the conference. It was great having you. That's it.